Coming up on Walk the Plank, I talk with series creator Eric Sprouse about the newest episode of Dead and Buried Treasures and their sponsor for this month, the Whiskey Rebellion Festival, held in Washington, PA. You'll get a sneak peek at tonight's movie, which I'm personally excited for. I'll give you 3 clues as to what that may be. Corman, Karloff, and Nicholson. And of course, we answer your Facebook questions. So all that and more coming up next. Welcome to Walk the Plank, the Dead and Buried Treasures pre-show. I'm your host, Rich Kanji, and this fine, strapping lad here is the series creator, writer, editor, star, the David Bradford of horror hosts, Eric Sprouse.
David Bradford, yeah, it's funny, yeah. But yeah, hey, thanks for having me, Rich. I love this show. It's awesome. It's my favorite. I have it on my DVR.
That's excellent. So, speaking of David Bradford, because we're jumping right into this.
Okay.
One of your sponsors for this month is the Whiskey Rebellion Festival in Washington, PA. Maybe fill us in, maybe give us a little history lesson as to why this is a big deal in Washington.
And this is a true story. Just after the Revolutionary War, when America was brand new and they were just brand new installing government and politics and law and, all this other kind of stuff, there was another Civil War uprising long before the actual Civil War. I think it was 1794, somewhere in the late 1700s, where distilleries or whiskey makers, alcohol makers in the area of Washington, Pennsylvania would make whiskey. And George Washington said, well, we need to start making money off of this. So they started taxing the whiskey. And so they started taxing all the alcohol that came out of the area. And the funny thing is, it doesn't sound like much, but it's like me saying, hey, Rich, why don't you make a sandwich? And you make a sandwich at home, and then the government wants to charge you for eating your own sandwich. And so all of the whiskey and rum makers here in Washington, Pennsylvania, which just happens to be my hometown, said, wait a minute, what? We have to pay taxes on stuff we make on our own. And then when we sell it to you, we also have to pay taxes on the fact that we've made the product. And Washington's like, yeah. So they started an uprising where, and I mean, it was like close to a war. They grabbed guns, said this is the greatest bunch of crap I've ever heard in our lives. So they grabbed guns and pitchforks and said, we're not doing it. So there's a big uprising about the whole thing. And they weren't going to do it. So just when America was brand new, they were already getting revolts within our own country of saying, we're not going to do it. Mm-hmm. So Washington brought thousands of militants, thousands of troops to Washington, marched them right down into Route 40, right into town, and said, what did you say? And everybody was like, they took their like pitchforks and said, oh, nothing, we're fine. And then they left, So, I mean, it could have been a really big disaster because it was just America at the precipice of being something new. We were just newborn at that time. We just ended the Revolutionary War. It's like maybe 10 or 15 years later, 20 years later. And now a whole war was starting again based on the Whiskey Rebellion. So all the we started and said, well, we want to tax the whiskey, and they said no. And that's when Washington brought troops to town and said, think again, and it could have got real ugly. So that's kind of a really brief recap, but it is a big thing in Western Pennsylvania, and it extends all the way up through Boston and some of the New England states.
And it's actually celebrated here coming up July 10th in Washington, PA, right in downtown Washington. And for those who don't know or have never been there, you can check them out on Facebook, Whiskey Rebellion Festival, or whiskeyrebellionfestival.com, and get some more information there. But as far as that goes, that's coming up July 10th, and they have historic reenactments, demonstrations, frontier art, heritage music, food. It's fun for the whole family. It's very family friendly.
Yeah, I've actually attended it several times. It's a lot of fun, and it's family friendly. They have colonial musket demonstrations, and they have cannon demonstrations, and a lot of it is made. It's almost like a festival for adults as well, because there's a bar right in the center of town called the Liberty Pole, which is like one of the main focuses of the Whiskey Rebellion. It's a very colonial bar. You go inside, you think you're in the 1700s, with big long wooden tables, and it's really nice. And they celebrate with a big Liberty Pole outside, and they treat the entire thing like a great big attraction. It is an attraction. It's a big festival. People come from all around to celebrate kind of our colonial heritage in southwestern Pennsylvania, but it has to do a lot with just colonial America when it was new. So it's a lot of fun, and it's celebrated every year in July.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be great. And I mentioned you as the David Bradford of horror hosts, but there's a Bradford house that's there, and you have been there. You've taken the tour, but something spooky about that, isn't there?
Yeah, the funny thing is, I just found out 2 years ago, the year pre-COVID, and I didn't know this, that my family is in the lineage of the Bradford family. And I'm something like a fifth generation grandson or something like that. And I didn't know that. I mean, I completely had no idea, but I had this feeling that I just wanted to do this, get involved with that. It's really weird how things work out. It's the Bradford House is in Washington. David Bradford was the leader of the Whiskey Rebellion when it happened, and one of the people that made the whole thing possible. Back in the late 1700s, he organized the rebellion, and it was kind of like the farmers and the pitchforks and the little colonial musket guys against the military. And it's funny in this day and age that it kind of echoes what's happening in our country right now. But it's a completely family-friendly event. It's meant to learn a little bit of history. Cancel culture certainly isn't here, because we're trying to explain to people what happened back in that age. And when I say we, I keep saying like I'm involved, but the Bradford House is supposedly haunted, very haunted. There's a lot of little homes that have been turned into museums in this area that were involved in the Whiskey Rebellion. So the David Bradford House is one of the museums, i.e. his home, that we're going to explore tonight on the show, as well as the Lemoyne House, which is what do you call like a pharmacist, apothecary or something like that. I can't think of the word. Down the road, when that one's haunted as well. And both have been like former undertakers' homes and like crematoriums and things like that. So we took our Dead and Buried Treasures cameras into both museums and kind of went through the entire place and see if we could find our own ghosts.
That's great. That's exciting. Yeah. See, and that's that works for the show. And so with that being said, speaking of the show, I'm excited, very excited for tonight's movie.
Oh yeah, good movie.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. I've seen many of Roger Corman's movies. You've shown a few of them on here on Dead and Buried Treasures, and he's the director of this movie, the 1963 The Terror, and it stars Jack Nicholson, Boris Karloff, and Dick Miller. Man, that guy keeps returning to this show, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He's like one of the greatest horror cameo artists of the generation.
Yeah.
He's in everything, you know?
And it's great because you've shown Bucket of Blood, which is directed by Roger Corman and starring Dick Miller, and Chopping Mall. That's another movie that starred Dick Miller. But he's also done Death Race 2000. That's a classic. And who hasn't seen Little Shop of Horrors?
Yeah.
So
funny. Spielberg was like king of the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the 90s, you know, Steven Spielberg was known for his fantasy and endearing movies. Francis Ford Coppola was known for his mob movies, his mafia movies. Roger Corman was like the king of the horror films in the 50s. And there's very few directors that rival what he did. He's done a lot, you know?
Oh, yeah.
My God, he was in everything with him.
I know. He just keeps popping up.
Yeah.
So that I'm excited for because I've never seen The Terror. That's one of the few Roger Corman movies I've not seen. I love Jack Nicholson. To see a young Jack Nicholson in this movie too is very exciting for me. So I think everybody's in for a treat.
Oh my God, good movie too. If you like good creepy ghost stories that aren't necessarily bombs and guns and explosions, then this one tonight is for you. It's very in the vein of Edgar Allan Poe.
Yes, that's so. Here's a clip. Here's a trailer of tonight's upcoming movie. Enjoy.
Come in. I surprised her in her room. She was not alone. With my own hands, I killed her.
Starring Boris Karloff.
Take this gun. Escort this gentleman from the castle. If he resists, kill him.
The Terror. His evil mystic powers go beyond man's wildest imaginings. The Terror, empowered to avenge, to reward, to transform.
I do love you.
Is she a blood and flesh beauty a man can enjoy?
I am possessed of the dead.
Or is she a gossamer myth, created by a madman's distorted desires?
Take your life as you took mine, and bring us together forever.
Join Boris Karloff, the Frankenstein monster of all horror motion pictures, in his most blood-chilling screen experience.
Well, that looks great. I can't wait to see this movie. So
yeah, it's been a lot of fun editing together too. It's a lot of fun because, you know, I don't know if you know this. I don't know if anybody of the viewers out there know. I kind of clean up the prints when we air it on the show. Like I go out of my way to kind of clean it up, to sharpen the picture, to give it some better resolution than the copies, even the best copies that I've seen out there. So if you're watching the show for the first time, you'll probably see, I started this probably about, I don't know, half a dozen films ago. I actually clean up the prints. I enjoy making it a better copy than is available for people to see. So it's really a good looking print.
Oh, that's great. Well, yeah, we appreciate that.
I bet. A lot of these movies are public domain. You know, it's funny. Somebody said, why are they all public domain? Why don't anybody own them? I said, because back in the 50s and 60s, they just didn't put a copyright symbol in the print. That's all that it takes. Mm-hmm. It's not that they're horrible movies. These are good movies. Somebody just didn't put a C where they should have, and that's the way it goes. Night of the Living Dead, I use that example all the time. It was a great film, but didn't have a copyright logo.
let's get into some questions since we got some time here.
I love it. I love questions.
I know, put you on the spot. So we got some questions from Facebook here.
Okay.
Let's see here. This one actually is coming from Albany, New York. Ronnie Sheldon asks, "What's your favorite horror movie?"
Oh wow. Okay. I guess let me answer it by saying I guess there's an old school, a middle school, and a new school. So I think if I had to go old school, man, because somebody would probably say, Psycho or something like that. Psycho's so overrated.
Mm-hmm.
I was never really impressed, but I guess maybe The Birds, if they would have ended it correctly, the original
Hitchcock.
way. Yeah, Hitchcock, because he ended it, and the Motion Picture Association said, no, you got to make it a nice, happy ending, and he wanted to end it where the birds won, and it's just they win. They wipe out the world so much, and so to speak. Look for that if you want to, how it originally ended. It was really neat. It shows like them escaping, and just when you think, oh, we survived everything, they go to San Francisco, and they stop the car, and they look, and the whole Golden Gate Bridge is covered with birds. And they lose, and we lose. My I guess middle school would be Jaws.
Good.
Jaws.
Good one.
It is singly probably my favorite horror film of all time. And I learned quite a number of lessons while watching Jaws, and a lot of filmmakers did too, because Spielberg kept making accidents and his shark kept sinking to the bottom of the ocean. They went through 3 or 4 just different sharks called Bruce. It revealed a great film technique that there's no substitute for the imagination. So that's when the fin would come through the water, people couldn't imagine what's under there. That was the scary part, to see that fin coming. You didn't know what was going to happen or how big this shark was. So Jaws is probably my favorite. And then I really enjoyed the Scream movies, but most recently Happy Death Day. Happy Death
Good one.
Day. I really like. In fact, I got the Blu-ray for you for Christmas.
You did? Oh yeah, it was very good. We watched both, and I guess they're making a third.
Yes, they are. Yep.
So that's
with Jeff
great.
Roth coming back. Yep. And it's almost like if Back to the Future and Scream got together and had a baby, it was Happy Death Day. It was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. All right, let's see. This is a good one. This one's coming from Las Vegas, Nevada. We're just moving on out. This is Michael. This is Michael Dench of Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm a big fan of the Siren character. I think she has a really sultry Jessica Rabbit-like voice. Will we be seeing any more of her in future episodes?
Oh yeah. In fact, not the next episode. There's 2 more episodes, and then she returns. Like I said, upcoming. We've been kind of hyping this big battle at sea between me and this new villain we're going to have on the show. But then as we're ready to do it, something comes up. Like all of a sudden, boop, there was the Whiskey Rebellion. I'm like, So I wrote something really quick to have one kind of inserted into our mythology. I'm like, okay, now we can have the battle. No, boop, here's Steel City Comic Con. They're open again. So we had to write one for Steel City Comic Con. So we had to push the battle down the road. I keep putting these cliffhangers in, writing them in and saying, here's why we had to do this. And the villain comes on and says, why aren't we attacking? So the Siren was meant to come back in the very next episode. We had to write 2 insertion episodes of like standalones that we had to get in there for Steel City and the Whiskey Rebellion. But yes, Siren is coming back. Absolutely.
And you know what? Speaking of Steel City Con, I actually have a question here from Stephen Pareso, if I'm saying that right. He's from Meadville, Pennsylvania. He asked you, now that Steel City Con is open, its doors again, will you be doing more shows with them?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I just talked to one of them as a sponsor today. They're going to be sponsoring our next show in July, where we host Steel City Con. And I wish I could have done it for June, because Bill Shatner was at Steel City Con, and a couple of the Scream artists and other big stars, John Lovitz. But we didn't have the time. We're already doing the Whiskey Rebellion, so I couldn't have done it twice. So we are having them on the show for the July show. In fact, we wrote an episode completely around Steel City Con, where there's a bit of identity theft going on. And Captain Drake gets the idea of kidnapping William Shatner.
That's great.
And so he's going to kidnap William Shatner and hold him for ransom. So I won't tell you what happens, but it's a lot of fun to shoot. And it's coming up in the next episode, and that'll be for our Steel City Con episode. And then we move on from there. Yeah. So they are going to be a sponsor on the show. Absolutely.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
So
also host that movie Man in the Attic that we've been promoting forever, the Jack the Ripper movie. And we kept getting caught up in, insert this episode here, insert this episode here. We had to keep pushing it to the back burner, but that's going to be our movie, Man in the Attic, with Jack the Ripper, Jack Palance.
Oh, that's great. So I have Rachel Levine from Uniontown, Pennsylvania, Fayette County. She asks, I live in Uniontown, and I've been watching you guys on Channel 77 Fayette TV, but I noticed you haven't been there for a few weeks. When will you be back? I'll watch your Facebook page if you use my question on your show for the answer.
Sadly, we will not be back to Channel 77 Fayette TV. And this is the first I've really talked about it on the air. They have decided to take the station in a different direction. So they will be focusing more on travel and tourism and history, and we are not part of that idea. So we're not the only horror host show on there. Like, there's a show in Uniontown produced down in Fayette County called Fright Night Theater, produced by a very close friend of mine, Harry Metz, who plays the Spooky Spectre, and he and I co-created that character years and years and years ago. But he won't be back on the channel either. So they're taking it in a different direction. So for anybody who's watching in Fayette County or on FCTV, Channel 77, or Fayette TV, as they call it, my best advice to you is to start watching us on Facebook, Friday and Saturday nights at midnight. And of course, this show, Walk the Plank, at 11:30. That's the best I can tell you right now. Unfortunately, we hate to see them go, but that's what they have decided to do.
Wow. All right, let's we got a yeah, it is. I'm glad we got to talk about that here. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
So we'll get through one more question here. This is a good one. This comes from Tony Desmond from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay.
You're all over the place. Look at that.
I am. Well, Facebook and YouTube open up so much.
It really does. He says, I'm a member of your fan club. Ahoy, Captain Drake. I saw in the latest newsletter that a little birdie says you might be showing Return to Gilligan's Island. My parents love the old show, and I watch reruns on MeTV. I didn't even know that they got rescued. When will this movie be shown, and is that true?
I forgot that was in the newsletter. Yeah. Yes, it is true. They do eventually get rescued from Gilligan's Island in a TV movie that was produced in 1978. And it's public domain. And I know Rich is not a big fan of Gilligan's Island. He thinks this idea sucks. And I understand. It's not horror. Okay, I get it. But I think it would draw a crowd. I think people would watch just to see Gilligan get rescued. And to see what happens, how they get off the island and everything. So not in this next episode, but I think our August show, we introduce a new character named Jasper, and he's the caretaker of the island. And during that episode, he picks a movie at random that just happens to be Rescue from Gilligan's Island. It's not even horror related, but when I talked to the president of the Vortex, Sluggo, she loved the idea. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe we could do that. So we're going to, much to my host's, he doesn't want us to do it. Just one show. We're going to do one that's not necessarily pirate or horror related, but we're going to tweak it toward the fact that it is a little, there's a tsunami approaching the island that the castaways are on, and the professor has to think of a way off very quickly. So when the tsunami hits, they can safely get off the island. So that's kind of horror.
Like nature, Mother Nature horror related, I guess. Natural disaster movie. There you go.
Right. And so it's a little horror related, like Mother Nature says, bam. So that's kind of the premise, and it's going to be a funny episode. I wrote that episode last week. Oh my God, it's just so, you got to see it to believe it. We have a little Indiana Jones in there. We have a little horror and ghosts. It's a funny one.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm looking forward to that because regardless of the movie, I look forward to just the Dead and Buried Treasure show to just to see the hijinks of Captain Calico Drake and his crew. So that's, hey, you know, I'm excited.
Can you see this down here? Oh, she's out. She's out. Like I'm in the den, by the way, and my dog is down here sleeping, and right now she's like, I'm like, I hope that's not interfering with. There, you can see her head a little bit.
Yeah.
Now she's back to sleep. I hope that's not interfering. I hear her snoring.
No, I don't. We're good. So that's about all the time we have. That's it. That's it. Half-hour show. Unless you can try to talk to the network about giving me an hour show here.
Man, I thought we had like 6 minutes. Oh well. Okay.
Well, once you get the trailer in there, that adds to it. But
time goes fast, man, when we talk on the air, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. I mean, once you had the intro, the trailer, you know, and all that stuff. But I'm looking forward to this movie, The Terror, with Jack Nicholson, Boris Karloff. So that's coming up next.
Don't forget Dick Miller too.
Dick Miller. That's
oh
right.
Yeah, this is a good one tonight, folks. It's a very scary one. It's creepy. It's very ghost story. And by the way, Jack Nicholson is married to the leading lady in the movie. Well,
really?
It was, yeah. So he was married, and she's just eye candy. I'm like, I mean, actually, he's so lucky. But he loves dating the leading ladies.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I didn't know that. So see, you always learn something new on this show.
Yeah.
That's great. And don't forget, check out the Whiskey Rebellion Festival, July 10th in Washington, PA, downtown Washington.
Yeah, come
check
on.
them out on Facebook.
A lot of fun. They are considering all the CDC guidelines. They're doing a shortened one this year because we understand the pandemic is slowly coming to an end, but they're not just throwing yahoo to the air and saying, it's over. No, they're still doing it where they're holding it outside. They're doing it one day only. They may be doing masks, and there's a possibility, slim, I still have to work out some of the details, that I might be, as Captain Calico Drake, be hosting a haunted tour of the Whiskey Rebellion itself in town.
That's great.
We'll see. It's not guaranteed, but if it's not going to be for the Whiskey Rebellion, we might do it in the fall when Halloween rolls around to do a haunted ghost tour at the Bradford House or Lemoyne House. Yeah.
Well, that'd be great. Well,
keep it in mind.
Keep an eye on Facebook or this show. We'll let you know as soon as we hear.
Sounds good to me, my man.
All right. Well, let's get to Dead and Buried Treasures and The Terror.
It's a good one. Stay tuned.
15 men on a dead man's chest. Yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum. Drinking the devil be done for the rest. Yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum. The mate was fixed by the possum's spike. Possum's brain with a marlin spike. And a cookie's throat was marred belike. Hand being gripped by fingers then. And they lay old dead man like a breakout day in a boozing den. Yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum. 15 men off a stiff and